Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show here on Talk North. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we are presented to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood, Chew Vision Institute, TSR Injury Law, Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing, Princeton's Liquors, and Royal Credit Union. I'm Jon Krawczynski, and for the second time in maybe the last month or so, this is truly just the Jon Krawczynski Show. There is no Jim Suhan. He is on vacation. And so I got some pretty good feedback about flying solo the last time. And so I'm going to give it another shot here this week. We're going to get into a lot of stuff on the Jon Krawczynski Show this week. We have some stuff on Anthony Edwards and his injury and how the Timberwolves are working through that process. We have kind of the ongoing saga of trying to get Rudy Gobert incorporated into the offense and trying to make him somewhat of a threat that defenses have to account for. We're going to get into Bones Hyland and just how much fun that experience has been of late. Ayo Dosunmu's fit, the schedule coming up, just everything that is going on in Timberwolves land. We'll cover it all here on the Jon Krawczynski Show. I wanted to start with a quick announcement. We, as you all know, are going to be doing the last live show at Head Flyer Brewing on March 27th. It is a 7 p.m. show. It's a Friday night. Should be a good time. Head Flyer Brewing, as you all know by now, is closing its tap room. Very sad situation. The era is ending at Head Flyer, but they've been an unbelievable partner. We've had some amazing shows at Head Flyer over the years, and so we want to send them out on a high note on March 27th, 7 p.m. We have a guest to announce today. Wolves assistant Micah Nori is going to be our guest at the live show at 7 p.m. So come early, get yourself a seat. Kind of just get ready for one of the great storytellers and characters in the NBA. In Micah Nori, we are going to have a great time. He will probably drop some of his trademark one-liners. He will give us some insight on what has been a wild season for the Timberwolves. We'll get into his background a little bit, just kind of swap some stories on his rise up the ranks, on kind of his role as Finchie's right-hand man. And it's somebody who I've wanted on the pod for quite a while, and so really thankful and grateful that he's going to be showing up on Friday, March 27th, 7 p.m. at Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast. It'll be Jim Suhan, it'll be me, and it'll be Micah Nori kind of chopping it up for a couple of hours, and we'll take questions, we'll have giveaways, all that stuff. So mark it on your calendar for March 27th. Want to shift gears here now and start the show probably where it needs to start, with Anthony Edwards. Ant is, as was announced on Wednesday, he's going to be missing 1 to 2 weeks with right knee inflammation. And so I'm just going to bring you a little bit of what I've been able to gather over the last several days on Anthony Edwards' condition, on kind of what the plan is going forward here with him. And basically, the way that I understand things right now is Anthony Edwards has a knee problem that has been bothering him now for probably a couple of weeks. There's been a couple of different times where he's knocked knees with an opposing player, and you could tell that he was in quite a bit of pain and just was able to muscle through for a little while. Thinking about that Oklahoma City game where he was not himself. And after the word, I kind of walked out of the arena with him, and he was limping quite noticeably. You could tell that he was uncomfortable. And so that's, after that comes home to Minnesota, has kind of some examinations, some MRIs, and it's revealed that there's no tearing, there's nothing like that, but there is inflammation in that knee that needs some time to calm down. And so the Timberwolves were very intentional about leaving a window kind of wide open in terms of how this rehab process is going to go. They say reevaluate it in 1 to 2 weeks. Of course, that does not guarantee that Anthony Edwards is going to be back immediately at the 2-week mark. But I do think that part of the calculus in trying to estimate how long he was going to be out is that this guy has kind of a superhuman quality of just healing his body. We've all seen a million different examples of in-game where he crashes to the floor and it looks like his leg is broken, or it looks like the finger was broken when he dunked on John Collins, or any number of things, and he goes to the back. He gets worked on by D. Hines for a little bit, and then comes back out and magically reappears no worse for the wear. His body just seems to heal quickly, and so there is kind of some optimism that some time off of his feet, just some rest and some rehab over the next week to 2 weeks is going to be all that he needs to get himself back healthy and ready for the postseason, ready for the final push into the playoffs, and all of those things. One thing that does factor into what the timeline is he's played in 57 games, which means he can only miss 8 more games or 7 more games, to be under that 65 game requirement to be eligible for postseason awards. I think that it's pretty clear now that any hopes of Ant being the MVP this season, which we did talk about earlier in the season, there was a little bit of conversation about. Those have all gone by the wayside. It does appear like it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You could throw Luka Doncic into the mix, and you can throw Victor Wembanyama into the mix, but it looks like it's kind of Shai's award to win right now. And so the big accolade that he could potentially miss out on is All-NBA. And that is important to Anthony Edwards. He, I think, really does understand that there's some real status that comes with an All-NBA designation, and that's a big deal for him. That's a big deal for the Timberwolves to have an All-NBA player. That's a big deal kind of for everyone around to say you're one of the 15 best players in the league that season. And so if he does not make the 65 game minimum threshold, he will not be eligible for that and he'll miss out. But I can tell you, and just talking to people around Ant and around the team who have been talking to him directly, that the main motivation for getting back sooner is the belief that when he is out there, the Timberwolves are a better team and he can help them win games to secure as high of a playoff seed as they possibly can get. That's the motivation for Anthony Edwards above any individual awards that could or could not be secured. And he knows that the Wolves are just more dangerous with him on the court, and especially with the schedule that they have coming up against some really difficult teams. Needing Anthony Edwards on the court is a big part of their chase for a top 4 seed in the West and home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And so that's the motivation basically for the Timberwolves and for Anthony Edwards, is just to get him back, A, when he's healthy and when he's just really ready to go, and B, to give him and the Timberwolves enough time to try and secure enough victories to get an advantageous seed in the playoffs. Why has he not been at Target Center the last couple of games? I know I've had a couple of fans ask me about that, and hey, where is he? He should be on the bench with his team while he's injured. I really do think that right now he is staying home. He's keeping his leg elevated. He's having a lot of rehab done, a lot of kind of treatment done on his knee to try and do everything that he can to make the window of time where he's gone as short as possible. So, sitting on the bench, where he could get knocked into again or things like that is some consideration. You want him to be safe and just be comfortable, but also you want him just really kind of focusing on getting as much treatment as possible. I am not sure if he will be back on the bench for the game on Friday against Portland, or for the upcoming trip to Boston, or any of that nature. I just think that the focus right now for Anthony Edwards is get as much treatment and as much rest as possible, so that when he does come back to the fold, that he is just as explosive as possible, that he is as healthy as possible, and that he can do as much as humanly possible to be the Anthony Edwards that the Timberwolves need to be any kind of danger in the postseason. There has been, of course, now, after the win over Phoenix without Ant, after the win over Utah without Ant, a little bit of discussion in the fan base of, hey, maybe the Wolves are better without Anthony Edwards. Maybe the ball moves more. Maybe people get more involved without Ant out there to kind of be another isolation scorer with Julius Randle. And I can just tell you from my view, I just think couldn't be further from the truth. Certainly, there is a mentality with this team when you are missing your best player of, I think there's just a heightened focus. There's a heightened attention to detail. One of the issues that this team has fought all season long has been that, they don't get up necessarily for every team. They don't execute the game plan as much. We've heard many guys talk about, the coaches put out a great game plan. We just didn't execute it the way that we should have. And I think that when the team is missing the sun, moon, and stars, as Anthony Edwards is for this team, I think there's a real kind of extra motivation for everyone to say, we don't have a margin for error anymore. Ant isn't going to bail us out from tough situations. And so we better study up on the game plan. We better move the ball and get everyone involved. We better kind of look at this as a strength in numbers type of approach and go out there and play our best, or else we're going to get beat. And so that's what you saw from them defensively, especially against Phoenix. That's what you saw from them against Utah, where they did not play around with their food and they just kind of essentially stomped on them from late in the first quarter all the way through in a 37-point victory. And so I do think that Edwards' absence does help them in that preparation standpoint. The other thing where I do think it does help them right now is that prior to the injury and with the 1-3 trip and on the West Coast road trip, it was clear to me that a lot of the role players were just a little out of rhythm. Jaden McDaniels out of rhythm, Dante DiVincenzo out of rhythm. Julius Randle, even before the Oklahoma City game, just had a couple of weeks where he just could not seem to find the flow that you need from Julius Randle. And so when you take Anthony Edwards out of the equation and you take his 20 some shots out of there, and you take the way that he kind of operates the offense out of there, it just does open up more opportunities for Julius Randle, for Jaden McDaniels, for Dante DiVincenzo, for Ayo Dosunmu, for Bones Hyland, for Naz Reid. When he is in there, Naz missed the game against Utah. And so I do think that it will be productive in the long run for Ant to sit out a couple of games and let these guys kind of find their flow again. And so I think there's a very realistic scenario that Jaden McDaniels, is more involved. You look at him, he had 17 points on 15 shots against Utah. Like 15 shots is great for Jaden McDaniels. That's a number that he finds it more difficult to hit when Ant and Julius are both kind of playing big minutes. Julius Randle has now had games of 32, and then against Utah, he had 21 and 8 in light work. And so he is finding that the ball is in his hands more often. And I do think that right now he knows that he's going to have more opportunities to shoot with Anthony Edwards out. And so he's going to move the ball a little bit more willingly right now as well. And again, I think that this is all very good stuff for the Timberwolves, because I think when Anthony Edwards does come back into the fold, I think that he will come back to a team that has a little bit more flow to it, maybe has a little bit more confidence in some of those role players, because we have seen plenty of times this season where Ant will drive to the paint, kick out to the 3-point line, and whoever is catching it is missing the shot. Or guys will not be able to capitalize on some of the gravity that Ant creates. And I think that now that they're building a little more confidence, now that they're feeling good about themselves with the win over Phoenix, the win over Utah, maybe we'll see what happens in Portland on Friday and what happens going forward. But I do think that in the long run, this will be good for the Timberwolves in just kind of getting those role players back engaged. And Bones Hyland had told us about it. They know when Ant's out, there are just more shots to go around. And that kind of can help these guys get involved. And then I'm sure Ant is watching and seeing how this all plays out, and he's going to come back with a great perspective as well. But they need Anthony Edwards in the playoffs. That's the bottom line. Like, he is the star that stirs the drink in playoff series. He's always been a playoff riser. And so if this little rest period helps him come back refreshed and engaged, and gets the role players going, then it could really work out well for the Wolves. Just remember what happened when Julius Randle and DiVincenzo missed a bunch of time last year, and how they came back and put their foot on the gas and everything clicked into place. Maybe that is what's going to happen for the Timberwolves this season. But they also have a lot of tough games coming up. So we will see. We have to little reserve judgment for how this exactly is going to look until we see them play a little bit stiffer competition as well, which is just right around the corner. So those are my thoughts on Anthony Edwards. When we come back from break, we will talk about Rudy Gobert. We will talk about his involvement. We'll talk about all the ups and downs that have come with trying to get the big man the ball right around the paint and what is needed. But first, I want to tell you about Aquarius Home Services.
When something goes wrong at home, Aquarius Home Services makes the solution easy with one call to one team and no hassle to find a different handyman or company for each type of job. Aquarius has experts in heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. That means you get the right expert every time and solutions you can trust. Right now, enjoy $98 off any heating, cooling, plumbing, or electrical repair. Aquarius, one call, problem solved. Earning the right to be recommended. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com.
Also want to let you know we are brought to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today. And here's Jim Souhan for TSR Injury Law.
Thanks. We also want to thank TSR Injury Law, one of our first sponsors, Steve Terry and the gang over there. If you want a higher level of representation, if you want to get to know the people who get to do all the cool commercials, actually that's too light. The reality is if you call them, you're going to need some serious help, and they will give you serious help. Call 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. They're the best in the business. That's why they are such a great Minnesota success story. That's why they've gotten to a point where they can go hang out with the Wolves and do commercials. So 612-TSR-TIME is all you need to remember.
All right, now back for the second segment of the show. Jon Krawczynski Show here. I am Jon Krawczynski, flying solo while Jim Souhan is on vacation. And the next thing I really wanted to talk about coming off of the Utah Jazz wipeout was the involvement of Rudy Gobert in the offense. And this has been a point of consternation since he arrived in Minnesota via trade. This has been something that has come and gone in fits and starts throughout his tenure here, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. And it is an element that cannot be denied, is important for helping this team reach its ceiling in the playoffs. And it is, let's just be honest, it is sometimes very difficult to watch Rudy Gobert struggle with catching the ball, with operating around the basket, with trying to leverage his size and his length to their advantage in the half court. And one thing that really stuck out to me quite a bit in their loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Sunday was how much more active Isaiah Hartenstein is in the middle of that Oklahoma City offense in the half court than Rudy Gobert was for Minnesota. You watch the Thunder, they operate through Hartenstein. He is a hub. He's setting screens. Maybe some are illegal, maybe some are not. I think the same is with Rudy. Some are illegal, some are not. So, but he sets screens, but he handles the ball so deftly at the top of the key, at right at the top of the 3-point arc. He can also pass it very, very well. And so you can see that the Thunder trust him implicitly, that when the defense is scrambling, maybe when they're trying to double Shea, maybe when the perimeter players are having a hard time getting free of the Minnesota defenders, they will dump it to Hartenstein, either in the pocket, kind of not really in the post, but a lot in the pocket or the top of the key, and then they will work off of his screens, and he will thread some nifty passes. He can hit a floater here or there that makes him dangerous, and you just look at how much more flow that brings to the Oklahoma City offense and how many great shots are generated from his ability to handle the ball that way. And you just think, man, that would be really nice if Rudy Gobert was able to do that at any kind of requisite level. And unfortunately for Rudy, that game against Oklahoma City from an offensive standpoint was a really difficult one for him. He just could not seem to catch the ball, 4 turnovers. And even when he did have the ball, there was a hesitance and a reluctance with him to make passes to get kind of the same kind of high quality shots that Hartenstein was generating for the Thunder, because he just didn't trust himself to make some of those passes that are needed to Ant, to Julius, to Dante DiVincenzo, to any of the guys. And so it was a real problem for the Wolves in that game. And then you juxtapose it against Utah, where the Wolves just clearly used that game as a glorified practice. You don't get to practice very much at this stage of the season in the NBA. You're getting your body rest. There's games every other night. And so there just is very little opportunity for teams to hold practices and just have guys build chemistry and look for Rudy and really harp on kind of getting that connection going. So why not use it? Use that a game against a glorified G League team as an opportunity to practice, and that's what the Timberwolves did against the Thunder on Wednesday night. They just kept on feeding the ball to Rudy over and over again, and sometimes it resulted in him catching and dunking. Sometimes it resulted in him getting free throws. Sometimes it resulted in him catching and finding open shooters, and then sometimes it resulted in him fumbling the ball, dropping it out of bounds, turning it over. And the advantage of having the Jazz in this week of games was that the Wolves never had to worry about the consequences of those turnovers. Against the Thunder, those turnovers can kill you. Against the Jazz, you have all sorts of margin for error to work on building trust in throwing Rudy the ball. You saw Julius Randle do it. You saw Jaden McDaniels do it. Ayo Dosunmu and Kyle Anderson are doing it at a pretty high level, which is great because they have not been around long enough to see Rudy drop a bunch of passes and lose trust in him. I think the way that Anthony Edwards has sometimes lost trust in him, the way that Julius Randle has sometimes lost trust in him. But one thing that really stuck out to me in the locker room after the game, in conversations with guys, both with Chris Finch and with Kyle Anderson, Kyle talked about in the 2 months or so before he joined the Timberwolves and had their reunion with him, he was always watching the Wolves on League Pass, on TV when he was off. And he said, I was watching these guys play and like, oh, they missed Rudy on that one. Oh, they missed Rudy on that one. And he could just see all of the opportunities that were being missed offensively because they weren't throwing Rudy the ball. Oftentimes there's really good reason for that, because Rudy might not catch in those situations, so it's understandable why they wouldn't. But Anderson really spoke to the importance of incorporating Rudy into this mix. And if an opposing defense knows that it does not have to cover Rudy Gobert because no one is going to throw him the ball, man, that just makes it so much harder on Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle and everyone else, because that allows the defense to crowd the gaps, to double even more aggressively, because they don't believe that the Timberwolves can hurt them by getting the ball around to Rudy Gobert for easy buckets or for kind of to start the chain reaction of passing that will open up other wide open shots for other shooters. And so I asked Kyle Anderson, I'm like, hey, how do you play through it when he doesn't, when Rudy doesn't pay off that pass, when he does drop it, when it is a turnover? And he says, you just have to keep throwing it. And Chris Finch was super emphatic when I asked him about that. He said, the Wolves are not, or these guys are not going to get any sympathy from me for when they throw a pass to Rudy and he drops it. He said, because we just have to do it. It has to be part of our offense. And a turnover like that, in Chris Finch's eyes, is viewed as a quote-unquote good turnover. That means that it's not one of those mindless passes in transition that creates something going the other way. It is a play made with the intent of involving a teammate in the action that is really, really important. And so in Finch's eyes, he looks at it as, hey, if you make a turnover because you're throwing to Rudy Gobert when he is open and he drops it, I'm fine with that. That is okay, because it is so important for us to build some kind of chemistry, to build some kind of threat with Rudy Gobert in that situation, that whatever pain we suffer right now has to be worth it in the long run if it does pay off with renewed trust, with more efficiency, with all of those things. And so the edict has been passed down from on high. The Wolves have to pass it to Rudy Gobert. And if he messes up, that is on him, and no one is going to be blamed for it, for making that pass. And I think that's the right approach. I don't think that at this point in the season, we can expect Rudy Gobert to turn into Justin Jefferson as a receiver. He's just not going to all of a sudden magically develop these great hands that catches everything and that can, really turn into a high-level finisher around the rim or things of that nature. But what cannot happen is he cannot be completely ignored in this offense. Otherwise, the Wolves are just way too easy to guard. If you're playing 4-on-5 every every possession, that just puts so much more pressure on Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle to kind of create their own shots almost out of nothing. And so they just have to find a way to make Rudy Gobert a more viable part of the offense. And we've seen stretches where that has happened. We saw it in the playoffs last year against Golden State and against Los Angeles occasionally when he was really involved. And when Rudy Gobert is really involved in getting touches offensively, guess what happens? He plays even better defense. He grabs even more rebounds. He was super involved against Utah last night, and then he ended up with 19 rebounds. He had a ton of rebounds against Phoenix because they kept on trying to give him opportunities. Should it be that way? Should Rudy be able to just concentrate on defense and give you as much defensive pop and purpose as if when he is getting the ball as when he is not? Yes, it should be a vacuum, but these players do not live in a vacuum. They take pride in being involved on both ends of the floor. And so if you get Rudy the ball and give him chances, all of a sudden he feels more included. And then when he feels more included offensively, on defense, he is going to cover even more. He's going to be even more of a menace around the paint. He's going to grab more rebounds. He is going to be more involved and overpowering and dominant, which he can still be on that end of the floor. The Wolves have a defensive rating of 12 points per 100 possessions fewer when Rudy Gobert is on the floor than when he is off. And so he is just way too important to this team to just kind of stick out into a corner and say, look, Rudy, this is, we're not going to play you. We're going to just go kind of more offensive. We're going to use Nas and Julius kind of in the front court. They win too much with Rudy on the floor to have him off for large stretches. Guess what? They're also like 3.6 to 4 points better per 100 possessions offensively when Rudy Gobert is on the floor because of the screen setting, because of the offensive rebounding. So he is a winning player for them, but he can be even better if they can find a way to add him into the offense a little bit more. And that is why I do think bringing in Kyle Anderson on the buyout market, bringing Ayo Dosunmu in on the trade market was really important because both of those guys are showing a willingness to throw him the ball, whether he drops it or whether he doesn't. And that is just really going to be crucial for the Timberwolves down the stretch here. And so if they can keep Rudy involved, they have a chance to get out of this funk that they're in and win some games and win some playoff series. If he continues to be a complete liability on offense, they're not going anywhere. That's just plain and simple the way it is. So they've got to figure that out. There's been a few signs that it might be going in the right direction, but we'll see on that front, and we'll reserve judgment for when they play actual real teams and not the Utah Jazz. So we're going to take another quick break here, and on the other side of it, we're going to talk about Bones Hyland. We're going to talk a little bit about Ayo Dosunmu and his fit, and a bunch of other things in Timberwolves land. But first, I'm going to tell you about True Vision Institute in Bloomington. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you do see no more glasses. I still haven't updated my avatar on Twitter, and so I still have the glasses on Twitter, but that's just laziness on my part because I haven't worn glasses for almost 2 years now, and it has been so great. You go to truevision.com and set up your free consultation. They will take you through all the steps that you need to find the right vision correction methods for you. I got LASIK surgery. It was so much easier than I ever thought it would be. Literally on the day you go in, you are in and out of the room in like 5 minutes. That's just how long it takes to get the procedure done on both eyes. You go home, you rest for a little bit, and when you wake up, you're seeing clearly, just brilliantly and easily. And it's all thanks to the good folks at True Vision. So go to truevision.com, set up your free consultation, and get in there and just start living your life. You will be kicking yourself because you didn't do it 10 years ago. I'm sure doing the same thing for me. So go to truevision.com, set it up, tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you. And now, let's hear from Royal Credit Union.
At Royal Credit Union, we believe in banking with purpose. That's why we're here for you and your community with people-first service, local support, and all the accounts and loans you need to help reach your financial goals. As a not-for-profit cooperative, everything we do benefits the people and communities we serve, because Royal isn't just where you bank, it's where you belong. Experience the Royal Credit Union difference and learn more at rcu.org/royal support. Insured by NCUA. Loans subject to credit approval. Equal credit opportunity.
And lastly, I'm going to tell you about Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. We've been telling you about Princeton's Liquors for years now. Just another one of the many local community companies that are part of this show. I love being a part of it. I'm from Minnesota. You can tell from my accent that I've lived here almost my whole life. And Princeton's Liquors has been a part of this community for longer than I've been alive. And so you go into Princeton's Liquors, you get an amazing selection of bourbon, of craft beer. Those are their two specialties. That's what they really hone in on. But you want any wine, any spirits, THC seltzers and gummies, they've got everything covered for you at Princeton's Liquors. This is a company that's been kind of involved in the basketball community for years and years. They've been involved in the liquor sales in the Maple Grove area for decades and decades. So go and support the companies that are a part of this community, that have been here forever, that are run by people who are from here. And that one of those companies is Princeton's Liquors. Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. All right, back now here for the third block here on the Jon Krawczynski Show. And I just do want to take a little bit of time to talk about Bones Hyland. This season, Wolves fans, has been frustrating. It's been underwhelming. There's been ugliness at times. I can see how you guys have all reacted, and I understand a lot of it. The expectations are really high coming off of 2 Western Conference Finals runs. You want to see this team take an even bigger step toward a possible finals appearance. You want to see them really look like a team that could challenge the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference, and they just have not looked that way so far. So you're mad at Chris Finch, you're mad at kind of Julius Randle, you're mad at Rudy Gobert, you're mad at Anthony Edwards for not passing, whatever it is. There's a lot of justifiable reasons for angst. I get that part of it. It has been a grind of a season. But then you step back and you look at the story that Bones Hyland has become. And it is just one of energy and joy and much needed light with this Timberwolves season. He is playing phenomenally right now. Since Ant Edwards has gone out, he is even upping his offensive aggression and having real success in terms of being an energy kind of change agent for the Timberwolves, coming off of the bench, scoring, making plays, actually fighting on defense and playing pretty well on that end of the floor as well. And I wrote extensively about Bones Hyland at The Athletic a couple of weeks ago, and just the story that this guy has is remarkable. He was a first-round draft pick by Tim Connolly in Denver, had a really good first season when Jamal Murray was injured, and kind of became a household name in Denver for the kind of swashbuckling style that he has, for the quick strike scoring ability that he has. And I think that in some ways that early success was almost the worst thing that could have happened to Bones Hyland, because he came in and became such a big part of what the Nuggets were doing that certainly he had maybe an inflated sense of ego about his standing in the league, about his ability to be a difference maker, and be a starter on a very good team. And then when Jamal Murray returned and his minutes were cut, he didn't respond well to that. He was not the best teammate. He has said it. He said it to me. He said it to others that, kind of he had an inflated sense of himself and kind of wanted it all right away. And that thirst for shots, for points, for role really ended up kind of sabotaging his time in Denver. It got to the point where he got traded to the Clippers, and even though the Nuggets won the championship the season he was traded, it's customary sometimes for players who, even were on the roster earlier in the season and didn't finish the year with the team to get a championship ring. Bones Hyland didn't get one. And that kind of spoke to kind of the terms that relationship ended on. And he goes to the Clippers, doesn't really play much behind James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and Reggie Jackson and a bunch of guards with the Clippers, just never really got a lot of time. So gets traded and waived again and comes to the Timberwolves last season as a two-way player. It's basically a favor Tim Connolly gives him. He still believes in Bones Hyland, but Bones was hanging on to the league by his fingernails at that point of his career. And you're starting to wonder if he would have had to go over to Europe to kind of continue his basketball career, because there was not a lot of excitement about the Bones Hyland experience. There was a lot of impressions from people around the league that he was a selfish player, that he didn't have the right priorities for having success in this league. And Tim Connolly throws him a two-way deal. He impresses with his humility when he arrived here. I think that there was a bit of perspective that was given and earned through those hard times that really kind of was important for Bones Hyland. He had to open his eyes a little bit and kind of look at how to carve a niche in this league. And to his credit, he looked in the mirror and said, hey, what I've been done to this point hasn't worked. And so I've got to kind of give myself up to the team a little bit more. I've got to be a little bit more selfless. And he came to Minnesota and has been all of that and more since arriving here. And then he got a non-guaranteed deal coming into this season and was behind Rob Dillingham in the rotation at the start of the season, and just did all of the right things in practice, in games, in the Sizzle League, in the Stay in Shape League, on game days for people that were out of the rotation. He just kept biding his time, kept being patient, kept waiting, kept being a good teammate. And now here he is, a major part of this Timberwolves rotation as they try to make this playoff push. And he's become like a beloved figure in Target Center. His 3-point celly is just a big thing. Saw like Joe Ingles last night hit a 3 against Utah and did it. And like, that's the kind of like energy that is needed on this team. We've talked all season long about this kind of being more of a moody, sullen team. Bones Hyland is all light and all positivity and all electricity, and that's what's needed right now. And so this is a guy that, again, I wrote at The Athletic, survived a house fire when he was in Delaware in high school that took his grandma's life and took a 11-month-old cousin's life, was injured in that fire and had to come back from it and still built his way up. So just a remarkable success story for Bones Hyland with the Timberwolves. He has now become a part of this team that when he steps on the floor, all of the energy in the arena starts to change and it starts to crackle. And he's playing with an incredible amount of confidence. And his enthusiasm is infectious. And so it has been in a season that has been very difficult at sometimes angst-ridden, to have this Bones Hyland renaissance. It's just been revelatory. And yes, Tim Connolly probably missed on the Rob Dillingham acquisition. Rob's playing a little better in Chicago. We'll see what if those numbers are real or not. But to be able to hit on Bones Hyland as a non-guaranteed minimum guy who now is a guy playing 20 plus minutes a night and scoring at the level that he is, I mean, that's how you recover from missing on lottery picks, is to go find the Bones Hylands of the world and make that happen. So a credit to Bones for sticking with it. A credit to this team for giving him the opportunity. And it's all seemingly coming together just in a major way here for the Timberwolves as they enter the home stretch. So good on Bones Hyland. It's been super fun to watch. And I know that Wolves fans are really enjoying that experience as well. So we'll take one more break here and get back with a little bit of a mailbag from questions from the audience to hit, and then we'll wrap up the show. But first, I want to tell you about sglambchops.com. Use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you get at Lamb Chops. You know by now what Lamb Chops brings to the table. Some of the best, most comfortable, highest quality streetwear and casual wear in the business. You can find it all over Target Center on Wolves fans. You see Jordan and Craig courtside for Wolves games and Lynx games. They are really kind of supporters of this community of basketball around here. And go to Lamb Chops, go to sglambchops.com. You'll get hoodies, t-shirts, hats, everything that you could want to look good on a Friday night in the North Loop, to be comfortable lounging around your house watching games, watching NCAA tournament games on the weekend. It's sglambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that you get at Lamb Chops. And courtesy of Lamb Chops, we're going to just hit a bunch of mailbag questions right now from you guys. I put out a prompt on Twitter looking for those questions, just what's on your mind and what's going forward here as we get into the final 12, 13 games of the regular season and chase things down. So one here from my friend Amir Eldo Miati. I absolutely love the bench rotation of Naz, Io, Bones, Kyle, and especially how they increased pace. Is it realistic to retain all three of Io, Bones, and Kyle in free agency this summer? It's going to be real interesting if the way that Bones and Io particularly are playing sustains in the playoffs. I do know that the Timberwolves made the trade for Io DeSunmu, giving up Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 first-round picks, not just as a rental. They want to keep him for the long haul. Io is playing amazingly well right now. He really looks like he's fitting into both sides of the court. He's finding a comfort zone. He's shooting the ball well. Now he stepped into the starting lineup while Anthony Edwards is out and has played really well in these first 2 games. And so if he has a great playoffs, I mean, that price is going to go up and up and up. We will see kind of how the Timberwolves can fit that into their equation, but I do know that they want to keep Io DeSunmu. Same with Bones Hyland. I mean, Tim Connolly loves Bones Hyland. Bones Hyland loves the Timberwolves for the opportunity that they've given. He is playing really well. I don't know what kind of offer he's going to command on the open market if he keeps playing like he is right now. I mean, maybe he inches up toward, I don't know, the mid-level or something. He's still like 25 years old. He's still young. He has proven to be a spark plug type of a player. If he's able to be consistent and have some real playoff moments, you are going to see him, you see that price rise. I do think that the opportunity that the Wolves have given him will resonate well with Bones Hyland. As flashy as he is, I don't think money is the main priority for him. Of course, he wants to make everything that he can, but I think he's going to look at fit. He's going to look at opportunity, and all of those things. So that tells me that is a world where both could stay, but I mean, that it could get a little tight. Kyle Anderson, I'm not as worried about. I think at this stage of his career, I mean, he kind of is a league minimum type veteran player. And again, another guy who understands that Chris Finch values him probably more than any coach has ever valued him in his career. And so if he wants to keep playing and have a real role on a team, the Timberwolves are going to offer that more than anyone else. And so I think there's a good chance that he sticks around, more on a vet minimum type of a deal going forward. But Io and Bones, the price tag is going to be interesting to watch if they are able to keep this up. Let's see here. We're going to go to another one here. From Peter Ryan, not saying that any of the trade line moves were regrettable, but what might be most regrettable, or perhaps a move they didn't make that in hindsight now you wish they would have. I don't know that there is like one out there that you look at and say, obvious, man, they really missed out on that. Just like, for instance, Oklahoma City gave up a first-round pick for Jared McCain. The Wolves didn't have a pick to give that would have brought a player like that to Minnesota. I mean, that certainly would have been helpful to have a Jared McCain type, but hey, credit to the Thunder for getting him. He looks like an amazing fit with Oklahoma City, and I'm much more fearful of the Thunder now than I was because McCain is coming off the bench with the flamethrower. And so, you could maybe look at, was there a way to get a Tyus Jones or a more prototypical point guard on this roster? If it looks like they are not going to play Mike Conley down the stretch, which I understand at this point of his career, could you look for a more prototypical younger point guard to put in there? But I just think when they went and got Io DeSunmu, they went and got Kyle Anderson, like those were really good fits for them. I think that they checked a lot of boxes with those two guys. And so I don't see anything out there as a major regret. I think that those two are really good fits. They went out and got players that really kind of filled a bunch of needs for them. And it's hard for me to see them doing a whole lot better with what they had available to spend and with what kind of players were available on the market. So I don't think there are many regrets there. From Jim Fink, is there any chance the team can play like they have the last 2 games with Ant? It seems like he raises the ceiling a ton, but also lowers the floor. No hate, just observation. I do think, Jim, that the hope is that when Ant returns, it's just that everyone's in a better flow. And so that when I think he will see that, hey, these guys are feeling good right now, so I'm going to get them more involved. I think the hope is that there just is less isolation basketball when Ant returns. And one of the reasons for isolation basketball, though, is not just Anthony Edwards. It is that some of the other guys are so inconsistent with some of their shot making that oftentimes Ant, I think, feels the pressure to carry the scoring load more. And so then he kind of takes things into his own hands to an even greater degree. But I would expect that if the way that this is going right now sustains over the next week and a half or however long it is while Anthony Edwards is out, he will come back with the best of intentions of getting everyone involved and keeping that flow going. There's no one in that locker room that is happier when Jaden McDaniels or Dante DiVincenzo or Julius Randle have good games than Anthony Edwards. Like, he wants to see these guys succeed. And so when he kind of goes into superhero mode, it's usually because he feels like he needs to go into superhero mode because it's not working for the Timberwolves, and he's just got to put the team on his back and carry them. So if the guys are in enough of a rhythm where that is not required, then I do think that you could see more ball movement. You could see more playmaking from Ant. We've seen it in the playoffs, right? We've seen him make the right read over and over again in the playoffs. And so I think that can absolutely return. From Heatmiser, I think we're seeing what Finch wants in his offense right now. Does this give Ant a sense that ball movement is the direction we need? I mean, yes, kind of building off of that last question, I do think that Anthony Edwards is a really smart player when he sees the film or when he sees things happening in front of him. He can learn from that very quickly. And so I do think that if that success keeps going, if they keep shooting the ball well, if Julius keeps playing like he is and Jaden does, and if Dante gets out of his little shooting funk, like, I think Ant's going to see that and say, okay, yes, our guys are capable of this. This is the way that we need to do it. He has done it. He did it in the Lakers series. He did it in the Warriors series. So he can do it again. And especially coming back from injury, maybe he'll want to ease into things a little bit more, and that will open up some more opportunities as well. Let's see here. Let's go through a few more. From Sir Crick, I've been planning all year to take my kid to the Mavs game on 3:30. What chance do you think Ant will be playing by then? I think there's a chance. I don't want to guarantee it because you just never know how the knee is going to respond. Like I said, though, he does want to get back in time to help the Wolves as much as possible win games and maybe to stay eligible for that 65 game mark and be eligible for postseason awards. So there is a real chance that he is back by then, yes. But I cannot guarantee it just because the Wolves are clearly trying to do right by Anthony Edwards and make sure that knee is good to go for the postseason primarily. And so if it's not, he won't be. But 3:30 is, that's another 12 days away or so, 11 days away. And so I think there's a real chance that he is back by then. Let's see here. In your opinion, what is holding the Timberwolves back from separating themselves from Houston, the Lakers, and Denver? That's from Ryan Atkins. I think that it's a couple of things. One is the defensive consistency that has just eluded this team for much of the season. We saw the way that the Lakers and Clippers just had their way with the Wolves defense in that LA trip. That has been the one thing that used to be sustainable for this team that has not been so far. And so the fits and starts that they have with their defensive consistency really does just breathe life into the opponent. And that's one of the biggest reasons that they've lost a lot of games is because the defense goes in and out. And the other point of context to have with Houston, with the Lakers, with Denver, all of these teams are imperfect. They have all at different times of this season gone through stretches where their fan bases wanted their coaches fired, wanted to pull their hair out, wanted some of the players traded, just believe that there's no chance that they're going to go on in the playoffs. The Lakers were talking about that earlier this season when Luka was not looking as sharp. Now he looks great, and they are surging, and they're playing with a lot of confidence, and things are looking great in Lakerland. Things are not looking good in Denver and Houston right now. Denver just lost to Memphis, and there's a lot of angst in that kind of fan base about their ceiling now. The Rockets just seem to be in a real funk from a scoring standpoint as well. And so, the Wolves are part of that cluster of teams that go up and down. And I think that at the start of the season, we all kind of expected more of them. We all expected them to be more in the running with San Antonio and Oklahoma City as far as like top 2-3 seeds that were above some of this kind of roller coaster ride, but they haven't been. That's been disappointing. But if they can find more consistency defensively down the stretch, then I think you will see more consistency emerge offensively as well. And then they will be much more of a difficult cover, and can be dangerous in the playoffs again. We'll go to one more here. Let's take a look here. Oh, here's a great one from Cats in Space 420. Do the players care what seed they end up with? Honestly, I don't. None of the teams but OKC scare me more or less than the others, and that's from Cats in Space. It's a great point. I do think that there is a belief within this locker room that the seeding doesn't generally matter to them. Of course, they would prefer to have home court advantage in the first round and maybe have a path where you avoid Oklahoma City in the second round. But they got to the Western Conference Finals last year as a 6 seed. They believe that they have the talent to beat any team, including Oklahoma City in a series. I don't know about Oklahoma City myself, but they do really believe that. And I think one of the more frustrating parts of this season for, watching this Timberwolves team is they may have been a little overconfident. And I think there has been some complacency, some boredom with the regular season. Just, hey, it doesn't matter. Just get us to the playoffs and we will lock in and get going. 6 seed, 7 seed, 5 seed, 2 seed, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We'll be ready to roll. There is danger in that, obviously, in the play-in tournament, but also just obviously in not sharpening your blade as much as you can so that it's not a thing where you have to just flick a switch. And so that has been both disappointing so far, but also a reality of their situation. And so I do not think that they're going to panic if they are the 6th seed going into this playoffs. I think they're going to believe that they can beat the Lakers or whoever that is. And then, and they will, if they win that series, they will believe they can beat San Antonio or whoever they would face in round 2. That's just the nature of this team. We will see if that's right or not, but that's the mentality of this team kind of going forward. So, thanks a lot for all your questions. Again, that was brought to you by sglambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you get. So that'll do it for us here and on this solo mission of the Jon Krawczynski Show. Next week, please join us Friday, March 27th. Jim Suhan, myself, and Mike and Nori at Headflyer at 7 p.m. for a live recording of the Jon Krawczynski Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors, to Aquarius Home Services, to Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood, to TSR Injury Law, Chew Vision, Royal Credit Union, Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove, and to Lamb Chops. Thanks to Davide Rosso for producing this show, and thanks for hanging with me through the solo show. Jim will be back next week with Mark and Nori at Headflyer Brewing. We'll talk to you then.